to hang out with Karen.
Thank you, and welcome to the Board of Trustees business meeting for Monday, May 8th, 2023. We're reconvening the regular meeting. Just came out of a closed session to discuss some information pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. At this time, I'd like to call for any additions or deletions to the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to add consent agenda item number 11, the contract for the 2023 Island Fest fireworks.
Second.
And I'm sorry, that was 11? Okay. All in favor of adding that to the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So added. Fireworks, okay. We already did it.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Dave, would you like me to make a motion to delete item number 9, award Park Lane paving contract to the,
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to delete action item number 9, awarding the Park Lane paving contract.
Second.
We have a motion and support to delete action item number 9, which is the Park Lane paving contract. And I just want to add, that's going to be discussed tomorrow evening at the DPS Commission. That's why it's being deleted from tonight's agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's deleted. And I would like to make a motion to add consent agenda number 12, which is a contract extension for the chip sealing as part of the DPS road program.
Consent.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to add consent agenda number 12, which is a motion to extend the chip sealing contract under a change order with highway maintenance and construction, totaling $190,028. And just by way of background, they're going to be starting the chip sealing this week. They're on the island. They're mobilized, and with the bids, because the bids came in under our original estimates, we're able to add some additional roads, some additional work to the chip sealing contract.
Dave, are some of those included in the notification that went out today about chip sealing?
I don't think they are.
They are not.
That was the original chip
So the
sealing.
contractor was up in the air about whether they were going to be able to do those roads, those additional roads, while they're here this week. Getting this approved tonight allows that possibility. If we didn't have it approved, I wouldn't have a change order to work off of. If they don't do them this week, then they'll come back in July and do those. But once we get confirmation from the contractor, if they're able to fit them in this week, we'll send another out listing those roads. But those were going to be Dallas Court Bridge and then East River from Meso Island Bridge to Hickory Island Bridge.
Thank you.
Okay, we have motion and support to add consent agenda number 12, which is a chip sealing contract extension. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So added. Okay. I'll do that at the consent agenda. Here we go now. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended several times.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, or the agenda is approved as amended. Presentations. Public comments. Anybody have any comments on agenda items? Brian, you have one.
Yes, I have one from Carolyn Knackle, Cadillac Circle. This is about the cell phone tower. I am against erecting a cell phone tower on Grosse Ile. What due diligence has been done to ensure the safety of such a tower? And if a study was done, who did the study? There is considerable radiation emitted from phone towers. Where is the proposed site of the tower? That is all.
Thank you, Brian. Greg, Mr. Karmazin,
Greg?
did you have a comment on the action or agenda items? You just walked in.
Walked in in time.
Wasn't ready.
I was about to close them and thought I'd give you.
Why not? Greg Karmazin, 21228 East River, Grosse Ile. I just wanted to follow up on an email that I sent to the Township Board earlier this afternoon on behalf of the Grosse Ile Taxpayers Association. Bob Zelasco and I have done financial analysis of the cell tower sale, and we think that it's in the best interest of the townships not to sell the towers at this time. Based on the information that we've been provided from the township and the records of the township's ownership over the last 10 years or so, it appears that this asset is appreciating in value, and there's significant cash flow coming from the leasing of the towers. And when you look at that compared to the possible reinvestment in mirrors, we think that the township is in a better financial position by continuing to own those and lease those towers. And then there's also, in addition to financial issues, there's public interest protection issues that come with regulation of towers. The township currently does not have a cell tower ordinance. And if you look at the history and actions of municipalities across Michigan and the country, there's been many examples of municipalities getting into difficult situations with privately owned cell tower providers. So I think if in the future, or even tonight, if you agree to do a sale, we need a cell tower ordinance to properly regulate these towers. I wouldn't try and do it just by a contractual relationship alone. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, we have no other comments. At this time, I'd like to make a motion for approval of consent agenda 23-015, which consists of minutes of the April 24th, 2023 regular meeting, minutes of the April 24th, 2023 closed session, check registers dated through April 28th, 2023, the 2023 Township of Grosse Ile Summer Tax Levy, a redevelopment liquor license, a revitalization and placemaking grant 2.0, receive and file Grosse Ile Township Economic Enhancement Strategy Report, appoint a Fire Commission chairperson, approve the acceptance of Chapter 187 Police Reserve Unit into the Code of Ordinances of the Township of Grosse Ile, and approve a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 103-4B of the Grosse Ile Code of Ordinances. And 11, award a contract for the fireworks display for Island Fest. And we want to also add a chip sealing contract extension with highway maintenance and construction. Can I get support? Support. Okay, we've got the consent agenda motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And I would like to read. Oh, okay. One of the items on, I just want to clarify something on, one of the consent items was the ordinance amending Chapter 103, Sections 103-4 and 103-5 of the Grosse Ile Code of Ordinances. Just for clarification, and this is the fence ordinance. There is, and we had our township attorney not rewrite the fence ordinance in those particular sections. It was very confusing. There were no substantive changes to it. It just makes a little more sense and clarifies the verbiage that was in there. So that's just to clarify that a little bit. What do we got? Okay, so did we voted on the consent agenda, didn't we? Do we have a vote on the consent?
yet.
Okay, all right. All right, there's so many consents and
Yeah.
action
We're done,
items.
yeah.
Got it.
You just wanted to add
Thank you,
something.
gentlemen. Before I forget, I just wanted to let everybody know that the reason that I'm sitting in this seat tonight, and not Mr. Budny, is that he had to take his wife into the hospital this afternoon. Last contact that the board had with him is that they were going to be on their way home, but because of her condition, he felt it was necessary for him to not attend this meeting and to take care of his wife at home. So we wish her well, and we'll carry on as best we can to get through this fairly lengthy agenda. Okay. Action items. Mr. Porcarelli.
Good evening. The first one up is based on the recommendation of the Police Commission, the Grosse Ile Township Board decides not to join the Downriver Mutual Aid South Downriver Dispatch Consolidation.
Second.
On April 6, 2023, Police Chief Watson from the Brownstown Police Department gave a presentation to the board regarding a consolidated dispatch proposal. Since then, the Police Commission has met during a study session and conducted independent research on all areas of the issues. On April 18, 2023, at the regular Police Commission meeting, the Commission unanimously voted to recommend opting out of the DMA South Downriver Dispatch Consolidation Proposal. The Police Commission recommends Township Board approval for the Grosse Ile Police Department to once again opt out of this dispatch consolidation proposal.
Thank you, Joe. And I just want to clarify, we're opting out, but we've never actually opted in. So we're just, the motion is to not join rather than opt out, because opt out might indicate that we had once opted in, which had never happened. Any other discussion from the board?
So yes, Dave, just so they know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, a vote will be.
Yeah, a vote yes means to
Unless-
opt out, to not go with it.
Not go with it.
Just so the people out
Right.
there know once we, whichever way you're gonna vote.
Right.
So,
At its last commission meeting, the fire commission and the fire chief also had a discussion and came to a similar conclusion that it was not the right time at this point, that they would also consult the township board to, not to join this program at this time. So I just wanted to share that with you.
So just to be clear, because we wrote the motion in the negative, voting yes
Is to opt out.
It's to
But
not
not
do it.
is
join.
to not join.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So I,
That was asked by Supervisor Budny that I reversed it. That's fine.
Yeah,
As long as we know what we're talking about.
Correct,
and
as long as
people know what
everybody's
we're
on
talking
board
about.
before we cast our votes.
After Chief Watson came and made the presentation to the board, he came at the invitation of Supervisor Budny. It was basically just to share the information with us, to let us know what was going on and what was possible for us to do. And opting out does not say that we can never opt in the future, should we desire to do so. But I think it's also become very clear to most of us that since we are an island and we are somewhat separated from the mainland, we do operate under different conditions than some of the communities on the mainland, to whom this might seem much more beneficial at this time. And so there may come a time when we think of it the same, but I think right now my gut instinct too is that my individual vote will be to opt out, because I don't think we are ready for that at this time.
Anything else from the board?
I'll let them go, but Carol, you got something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that I had an opportunity to go to the study session that was chaired by Commission Chair Anderson for Police Department, listen to all of the concerns, the arguments. Both Chair Anderson and Trustee Porcarelli did separate analysis as to what the benefit would be from financial standpoint, and it was very clear that even though they approached the same problem from different directions, that there really was not a financial benefit that we could count on. I want to commend them for putting something in black and white that all of us could understand. I thought it was a very good presentation. Chief Carmack had comments there that raised a lot of concerns from an operational standpoint. I want to thank Doug as well for doing the work that he did on that. You guys did a terrific job. I went in there with an open mind, at least as best I could, and I came out with the idea that, and I said it at the meeting, this was a terrible idea. My feeling on that in part is that other communities, maybe a bedroom community, Grosse Ile is a boudoir community. Our people expect a higher service than pushing a button on a door and waiting for an officer 5, 10, 15 minutes to come in when there may be an emergency that requires immediate attention. So I want to thank everybody. Joe, Doug, Paul, you did a terrific job, and all the people that were there in attendance made it very clear that this was not something that would work for Grosse Ile at this time, and I'm very pleased to say, no, not going to do it.
Okay. Based on the recommendation of the Police Commission, the Grosse Ile Township Board decides not to join the DMA South Downriver Dispatch consolidation. And because I'm going to do a roll call vote basically on every action item, because most of them need a roll call vote anyway, and I don't want to mess it up. So, Mr. Porcarelli,
Aye.
Mr. Yager,
Aye.
Madam Clerk,
Aye.
Mr. Bloetscher,
Aye.
Mr. Beausset,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the dispatch consolidation, certainly at this time, will not include the Township of Grosse Ile. Now, one other point of order here, and I screwed this up on the consent agenda. The consent agenda had to have a roll call vote. Yeah, because of what's in it.
Oh, because it had
Because it has ordinance changes. So I'm going to,
Brian, we're going to go back?
do we need to rewrite the,
No, we just,
repeat
we'll
it?
just repeat the vote.
Okay. Then at this time, we're going back and voting on the consent agenda, and we're going to do it on a roll call. Kyle,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Ute,
Aye.
Jameson,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we have have that on the record, so. Action item 2. Well, I had it written down and I skipped right over it, but the ordinance changes require a roll call vote. Okay. Agenda item, or action item number 2, the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby rejects the attached purchase, lease, sale agreement for cell tower assets located on Meridian and Macomb Streets within the Township of Grosse Ile.
Second.
And I'll just say that over the last year or year and a half, it seems, we've gone back and forth on, do we sell the towers, do we keep the towers? And I think we've heard from different parties whether we should do it, shouldn't do it, and now's the time to actually make a decision. So. Yeah, might as well. Any discussion on it?
We say for or against on this one, or?
This rejects the sale.
Okay, and we just say reject, or is that how we do this?
Yeah, we're voting to reject the sale. Okay.
Yes to, oh, we're saying yes to reject. Okay, got it, now I got it. I'll just say something quickly on this while I'm speaking. I think the meeting that I was appointed was when the board moved ahead to see where this would go. It's a complicated issue. At the end, I'm against it mostly. I mean, I liked where Ann and Mr. Forrester were going with this in terms of trying to look at possible outside management of the cell tower. And I'd be open to that in the future at some point if it made sense. I think the way Mr. Forrester talked about it is if I get hit by a bus, then we're going to be in big trouble or something like that. But at least right now, it doesn't make sense. And I'd rather kind of a revenue sharing management model rather than an outright sale is what I'd like to look at. I know we'd lose some revenue, but at least it keeps some revenue coming in and give the option of growth. But yeah, I will be voting to reject this sale personally.
Okay. Well, and
One quick item.
sure.
The email that came in, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. I think the young lady was stating that she thought, did I hear this wrong? That she thought it was a new one, and where were we going to put it? Just so people out there understand, this was the sale of the towers that we already had for many years. There's no new one going up. I just want to make sure that's clear for the people out there and for that young lady
Yeah.
that came in. So, and also I will be, so to vote yes.
If you want to keep the tower just like it is, you vote yes.
Correct. That's why I will be voting yes.
And so, Joe, your vote.
Aye.
Jameson.
Aye.
I vote aye. Ute.
Aye.
Carl.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
And the cell tower will remain where it is. Okay.
I know Jim can't vote. I realize that, but he did want it relayed. Is it okay if I say it now? Because we're already done?
Yeah.
I mean, we're already done voting, but Jim did want to vote aye for both the cell tower and the dispatch, not to sell and not to have the, yes.
Not to join and not to
Yes,
sell.
so in other words, it was
But yeah,
6-7-0
Well,
consensus, but a 6-0 vote.
it's a 6-0 vote.
To be, yeah, okay.
Give him, because he wanted that relayed on, or passed on, so.
Okay, moving on. I guess I'll take this. Okay, action item number 3. Go ahead, Ute.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby approves the following allocations of the remaining CARES Act funds, and furthermore authorizes the various departments to commence the procurement of materials and services, the authorized work through the township's established purchasing, contacting policies.
Or,
So according to the, and maybe Derek is best to describe this, or would you like me to read it? The history.
Whichever you prefer.
Go ahead.
All right, so there's been a lot of conversation over the past year about, or year and a half, about the CARES funding. So this is the federal dollars that came down to pretty much every municipality in the state and government subsection. So counties and the state itself did receive funds. Grosse Ile's total allocation was just a little bit north of $1 million. Of that $1 million, there's a breakdown in where that money was spent previously, I believe, in the action item. But we have about $700,000 left over.
You want me to read it, or?
You can read it if you want, sure.
Yeah, for the public's edification, so for the Public Safety Department, we're talking about a subtotal of $459,723, which includes cement curbs, parking lot, fire department concrete deck, gutters, fuel tanks, public safety building sign, and roof paint. And that again totals $459,723. For the clerk's office, we need to buy a new tabulator in order to meet the mandates for the new election rules. That is $6,000 in total. For the airport, it's a taxiway cost of $8,000, and it says here a 50% share of the total. For Township Hall, we're looking at 6 HVAC units, parking lot repairs, door replacement, and flooring for a total of $185,000. And finally, for recreation, we're looking at replacing restaurant equipment that is 20 years old. And at the Centennial Farm, the Red Barn windows and some other additional repairs for a total of $37,500. All of it comes to $696,223.00.
What we tried to do with the allocation, or the remaining funds, was to allocate it across the majority of the departments within the township. We were able to achieve that with the exception of the DPS department and community development. DPS has other funding sources available to do capital work. We wanted to try to prioritize capital expenditures that were needed and very important to their operations, are preferably one-time expenditures that are the result of or as the result of the purchase would result in additional, and that wouldn't, as a result of a purchase, result in additional annual expenditures or a burden on the budget. And expenditures were alternative sources of funding to cover the expense were either non-existent or would put a severe burden on their current or future budgets. So really, these are capital improvements that wouldn't happen if these dollars weren't available, or would put a significant burden on current or future budgets. For example, the fuel tanks behind the public safety building. The budget doesn't have enough flexibility in it on an annual basis to cover a capital improvement of that size. So that's where these funds will really make a difference to try to shore up future budgets as far as insulating them from that type of expenditure. There was a bit of additional information included in your packet about each one of the expenditures with pictures and justifications for why that expenditure was needed. So hopefully everybody had an opportunity to review that because there's quite a bit of detail in there to justify each one of those expenditures. And those justifications came from the managers of each one of the departments that were being allocated funds. So that's direct from the manager of each one of those departments as to why they need it.
thank you, Derek. Any other discussion? We have a motion before the board that the board hereby approves the following allocations of the remaining CARES Act funds and furthermore authorizes the various departments to commence the procurement of materials and services, the authorized work through the township's established purchasing and contracting policies. Jameson.
Aye.
Carl.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Ute.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So, Chief, you'll be able to fire up those police cars again with new tanks over there.
I'd also just like to say Jim wrote us he would have voted aye for that too, so that would be also a 7-0 if you were here.
Okay. Action item 4. The Grosse Ile Township Board hereby approves and authorizes the signature of a tentative agreement between the Township of Grosse Ile and the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association of Michigan for a duration of 4 years.
Support.
Any discussion from the board? No? Okay, hearing none.
Oh, did Derek want to say anything?
Nothing other than this was covered multiple meetings between the administration, our labor attorney, and the township board. So the union has already authorized or passed the TA.
Right.
So upon approval by the board, this will become effective tomorrow. We'll move forward with implementation of the TA at that point, and then legal will work on incorporating these changes into an official contract. That official contract will then come back to the board for review and approval of the verbiage, but all the substantive terms and conditions are being passed tonight through that TA.
Kyle.
Aye.
Carl.
Aye.
Ute.
Aye.
Jameson.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So we have a new contract. Okay. The next action item, do you want to read it, Joe, or do you want me to read all of these? They're all pretty much the same, but,
Go ahead, I can
Okay.
bring it up.
all right. Action item number 5. We have a motion to approve let me back up. The next 4 action items are language for the August election, is that correct, Brian? For the the language that will appear on the ballot for 4, we have 4 millage renewals, and this vote is to approve the language that will appear on the ballot. This is not to approve the millage, just to approve the language that will show up on the ballot. So the first one is, this is a millage renewal to maintain current police department operations. And the language will read, shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Grosse Ile Township of .75 mils, that's 75 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to .7296 mils, or 72.96 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks, be renewed at .7296 mils, 72.96 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2023 through 2027 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of maintaining the current law enforcement operations on Grosse Ile, specifically for police department funds, raising an estimated $534,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied, and that will be a yes or no on the ballot.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion on the millage language?
I have a general question. When's the last date for millage language to go into the August election?
Right.
I would just, I would say I'm generally supportive of any time we can defer to the voter in mass to make decisions about how their money gets spent. I'm for, so I support the all of this millage language to allow the voters to make the decision on it. So,
Okay. Thank you, Jameson. Okay.
Just one final
Yes, sir.
thing. These are all renewals, so
They're
I'll
all
be
renewals.
supporting all of them. I know there's discussion about a possible police millage. Obviously, we won't be able to get that in time for the August election, it sounds like, but I would like to get a millage like that on board as soon as we're able to, so I just wanted to say that.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a support for the police department millage language. Ute,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Jameson,
aye.
and I vote aye. That is passed. Thank you. Okay. The action-
Dave, can I just make one
Sure.
comment, just so Kyle, on that, Kyle, I'm glad you brought that up. We have been meeting, and I wanted to wait till this went through, and then I will be requesting another meeting with Derek, same group of people, Derek, Jim. Dave, were you there? No? Sorry. Paul Anderson, who's here tonight, was there, so I will be requesting another one, Kyle, and we're going to move forward on what we think would be the best option for their budget in the future.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, moving on to action item number 6, which is Recreation Department millage renewal. And this is to recommend or approve the language for a millage renewal to maintain current Recreation Department operations. And the language will read, shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Grosse Ile Township of .375 mils, that's 37.5 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to .3647 mils, or 36.47 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks, be renewed at .3647 mils, 36.47 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2023 through 2027 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of maintaining the current operations of the Grosse Ile Recreation Department, raising an estimated $267,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied. Yes, no.
Second?
Took a minute, sorry.
Any discussion on the recreation millage?
Again, this is for Recreation Department operations. It is the only funding that the Recreation Department gets. It is not part of our regular township allocation. And so this millage renewal is vital to the Recreation Department. And of course, I'll be voting yes, and I will encourage the rest of you to vote yes too, to have our residents vote on this in August.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the millage renewal language for the Recreation Department millage on the August 2023 ballot. Kyle,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Ute,
Aye.
Jameson,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that language is approved. Okay. Action item number 7 is, and this is to improve and maintain drain and stormwater management projects renewal. And the language will read as follows. It's a millage renewal to improve and maintain drain and stormwater management projects. Shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Grosse Ile Township of .33 mils, 33 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to .3209 mils, 32.09 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks, be renewed at .3209 mils, 32.09 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2023 through 2027 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of improving and maintaining drainage and stormwater management projects throughout the township of Grosse Ile, raising an estimated $235,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied, yes or no?
Support.
Discussion.
I do have a question. So I understand as part of this, there's a drainage grant program that applicant or residents can apply for, correct?
Yes, so I'm glad you brought it up because it's a good opportunity to put in a pitch for that. That's really a great program because that's your tax dollars coming back to you, right? Any resident that has a drainage problem that benefits not just their property, but the general area around their property. So neighboring properties and kind of a regional drainage program can apply to the Community Development Department. They can apply for drainage grant funding to help alleviate those issues. The grant awards are up to $5,000, 50% of the project cost up to $5,000. You have to get a couple of different quotes, put together a plan that's submitted to community development. Our engineers will review it to make sure that it's a program or a project that will solve the problem. And then once you're authorized, you can have the work done. Once you pay for it and show us proof of payment, then we will reimburse you that allocated amount. So if you want more information, I believe the application is on our website, or call community development and they can give you additional information on that.
Is there any, could that also be used for stormwater sewer disconnect projects? Which I know is one of our concerns with the wastewater treatment plant and the storm surge.
Unfortunately not. No,
Okay.
no, this is pretty much just surface drainage.
Okay.
So if you have pooling and ponding in the backyard of your property that may be affecting neighbors around you and your property, that's more what it's focused on.
Okay.
Derek, did you say 5 is the total?
Yes.
5 is the max.
50%, no greater than 5.
That's what I mean, no greater than 5.
Correct.
Okay.
It doesn't mean your project can't be more than 10,000, but we will only cover up to a maximum of 5.
Okay, we have a motion in support for the renewal of the drain and stormwater management projects. Joe?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
Ute?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And, okay, the last renewal is for our off-island library services millage renewal. And the language shall read, shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Grosse Ile Township of .40 mils, 40 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to .389 mils, 38.9 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks, be renewed at .3890 mils, 38.9 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2023 through 2027 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of providing off-island library service, raising an estimated $285,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied, yes or no. And I want to add, this is to cover our share of the costs of participating with the Trenton Library, and if I understand what no, just Trenton.
It's only Trenton.
And we have something like 4,000 uses per year, or from Grosse Ile residents for the Trenton Library. So it's a significant number of people that utilize the library. I know I use them to turn in. They'll dispose of books, or they'll put them to good use or recirculate them through the library system. So but it's a well-used expenditure of our money. So.
And Ann, you might, Ann has often pointed out that we only use what we are billed. We don't necessarily always use the full allocation.
Right, so we're actually probably only gonna assess 0.3. So
Which is, yeah, last year we assessed 0.3 mils.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we have
Did you get a second?
I believe I did, but if not, we'll put you down,
Get
Joe.
a second?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
don't think we,
Second.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and support to approve the millage renewal language for off-island library services. Joe?
aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
Ute?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay. Action item 9 has been deleted. Derek, correct me, there was no number 10 add, was there? We added it to the consent agenda, was it? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No, go.
Public comments. No? Brian, I think you had a couple.
Yes, I do have a couple, both rather long, so bear with me on this. I'm going to read them just as they were written. First one's from Christine Davis on Canterbury. I recently noticed a for sale sign from a commercial real estate company on the property next to Sacred Heart Church. I always thought that was an open space. Turned out it's owned by the church. I also believe it could be the archdiocese that's selling the property. While it's privately owned, I think the township board should be aware of what the plans are for that property and to notify the residents of Grosse Ile, or at least the surrounding residents of that property. Why? Because there could be an impact on their property, including property values. There is currently a home for sale on the corner of Church and Park Lane, which is beautiful inside, but the traffic from the school and events at Sacred Heart are deterring buyers. Events like the fish fries, but on the other side of Park Lane Elementary School, it's all residential. My concern is the 6.6 acres facing the homes is zone residential. They have several parcels for sale, and Mr. Gonzalez, the commercial real estate person, says that, and I quote, parcels will require rezoning. This is my concern. If it has to be rezoned, is there a zoning committee like the Bike Path Committee where residents can hear the developer's plans and voice their opinions and ask questions? I understand the The CONVENE is already sold since it's not a single-family residence that could easily become a senior group home, apartments, or any other type of multi-resident facility. If it becomes anything other than a single-family home, there would be different requirements such as possible license, certificate of occupancy, etc., but mainly enough parking spaces require for the number of residents. This also applies to the proposed senior housing or apartments or any multifamily buildings on the other parcels of land. The proper handicap parking, the regular parking issues based on number of residents, and other issues regarding flow of traffic. This should become an agenda item when the proposed use of property is known. I suggest the agenda should always be posted on social media. I haven't seen an agenda in a few months. I feel very strongly that the Township Board has control over how the island is developed, but residents need to know. If it's changed to commercial zoning, you've lost control. Nothing can stop a business from moving in. I feel it should not become a commercial property. Lastly, I would like to address the lack of clearing the branches that fell after the last storm. We waited over a month for them to be cleared. It was a hazard driving down our street, even walking. I heard the excuse people were trimming their trees and putting the branches out. On Church, Canterbury, and even Park Lane in front of Sacred Heart, nobody was trimming trees. If anyone had a professional tree company, they would have left huge ditches and lawns. The north side loses power 3 times more than the south end. We lose power for 4 days. We move in with someone in the south end. May I suggest that the board contact DTE to identify problems. One problem is walking along the Sacred Heart Drive by the convert, past the gardens to the cemetery. The trees are so intertwined into the wires it won't take much to lose power once again. I think they missed a large section when they were trimming trees. I also heard a changing station could be considered on the island. If true, the residents who own electric cars can have their garages equipped with power to charge their cars. By the way, would also put a heavy load on our electrical grid. Why would an island with approximately 11,000 residents need a charging station when no city around have them? I would hope that subject would be investigated for a long time before it's ever even proposed. Thank you for your time. And my second one is from Mary Bresnahan, Bellevue. Supervisor Budny, I appreciate your willingness to give updates on current issues, but telling the community that we are on schedule for the bridge is meaningless. We have no schedule. If you have a schedule, please send it to the community for clarification. You also stated that you needed to clarify that the community that the bridge is safe. There should be evidence to support this statement. On November 21st, 2022, at a special meeting with 2 Wayne County officials, the bridge's substructure was rated 5, fair condition, and the superstructure was rated 4, poor condition. It was advised that there was deterioration and time is of essence. Piers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11 were rated in poor condition. It was a concern. It was suggested that no salt, reduced speed limits, and restricted loads would be important to the situation. That was almost 6 months ago. The salt I can't speak about, but there have been no signs to indicate a reduction in the speed limit or any caution taken for heavy loads crossing the bridge. Not only that, but at the previous Township Board meeting, you had stated that it would be better to drive fast across the bridge. That would appear to be a traffic hazard, and the police would have to enforce this increase in the speed limit. It was also stated that it would be impossible to have a person watching the load limit crossing the bridge. The 18-month shutdown of the bridge ended with a ribbon-cutting ceremony by you, Darren Camilleri, and Warren Evans. People crossed the bridge in a parade-like fashion because they were overjoyed that life on Grosse Ile would be back to normal. They were told that we had a good 20 to 30 years of bridge life ahead of us. A couple months later, that joy came to an end. The bridge was not the safe bridge that we could travel across for another 20 to 30 years. A trust had been broken. There is a huge gap in communication between the board and the community. A resident had suggested the idea of an ad hoc committee back in November to oversee the bridge situation and give updates to the community. At this point, it is necessary. It would be appreciated. You should be knocking on the door of these Wayne County officials. A call to them every 3 weeks with no return call for days doesn't work. Please consider the importance of this matter for your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Bob and Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
Greg Karmazin, Easter. Just wanted to thank the board for the vote on the cell tower sale, opposing it. I think that was a good decision. But one thing I will say that this is a complicated issue, and it really does require a lot of input and analysis to figure out how to maximize this asset for the best interest of the community. And I would just make the appeal that this would be something that if we had the Communications Commission that we once did have, this would be ideal for a commission to evaluate. And I know that we've had an outside consultant that's been reviewing this, but we have some very talented residents on the island, people who have experience in a lot of different fields. And I think this is an example of the type of thing that if you had the commission that we once had, the Communications Commission, you would find that you could get input from the community in an organized and thoughtful way, and we could look at how to maximize maximize the cash flow and investment in this asset, which is one of the more expensive assets the township owns, and also look at all the issues of regulation of that asset, looking at an ordinance possibly to make sure that it's properly managed into the future. And if in fact a sale is proposed at some point in the future, we have the regulatory framework to actually control that. So I would just encourage you to think about that going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Can I just add
Go ahead.
one last thing? I forgot to mention. Also, during the analysis that Bob and I did, we did hear that that there was some uncollected lease revenue from the cell tower. If that's in fact true, I don't know if that's in fact true or not, but if there is any money owed to the township, I think we should collect it for the leases.
We try to get in every nickel we can, Greg.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what I heard. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but if it is true, I think if you're not going to sell it and there's money due, the township should collect
Right.
the money that's due to the township for that lease.
I agree. Okay. Okay, I guess at this point I'll move to clerk's report.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. With the passing of the ballot language for 4 township millage renewals, it looks like we will be having a special election on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. So Deputy Clerk Friel has provided me with some additional information to share. Voters can start applying for an absentee or an absent voter ballot for the special election starting 75 days prior to Election Day, which would be May 25th, 2023. The clerk's office will be mailing out applications to all registered voters on our permanent absent voter list beginning in early June. New for 2023, with the passage of Proposition 2 of 2022, the ability to check a box on the absent voter ballot application to be added to a permanent absent voter list to receive a ballot for every election moving forward. So if you check this box, voters would no longer have to fill out an application for every election. Also, state-funded prepaid return postage on absent voter ballot applications and absent voter ballot envelopes. And then, as always, our clerk's office will be recruiting and hiring, looking for poll inspectors. If you are interested in working the election, if you have not done so in the past, please feel free to reach out to Brian and Elena in the clerk's office. We are always looking for Wayne County residents, essentially, to work our elections. So that's it on the election front. Now, the more fun part of the business is Island Fest. And with the possibility that we may not have another meeting in May, I just want to do my usual Go Island Fest routine here. So bear with me. Island Fest is June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's always the first weekend in June. To quote our former rec director, Mr. Rooney, where the river ends and the fun begins here at Island Fest. We have a website. It is called GrosseIleIslandFest.com. Go there for details. Essentially, we are starting at 4 p.m. on Friday, June 2nd, here at the airport with vendors, exhibits, and crafters. We have lined up a carnival, a beverage tent, food trucks, an animal petting zoo. The Grosse Ile Art Association has its Chair Arty event, and I think they've added a gardening component to it this year. At 6 p.m., there will be a DJ Hype, and at 8 p.m., there will be a band, Detour Band, performing live here at the airport. On Saturday, June 1st, the festivities start with a parade down Macomb Street. The parade starts at 10 a.m. Please be mindful and plan ahead. There are a lot of other activities taking place. There will be a soccer tournament going on. There will be a lacrosse tournament going on. So there is going to be a lot of activity on the island during this weekend. The vendors, exhibits, and crafters come back here to the airport at 11 a.m. Parents, the DIA is bringing down a children's arts and crafts participation event from 12 until 3 on Saturday. As always, there will be the carnival. At 4 p.m., we have the Wisteria Trio performing. Saturday is fireworks night. There are VIP tickets available. The VIP area opens. It will include food and drinks and a viewing area for the fireworks. But of course, you know the whole airport is open for the fireworks. That is slated to be at 10 p.m. At 8 p.m., there will be a performance by the Phoenix Theory. And, of course, the Big Bang starts at 10 o'clock, the fireworks. On Sunday, June 4th, Gyra is hosting its pancake breakfast here at the airport, starting at 9 a.m. At 10 a.m., there's going to be a car and motorcycle show, in addition to the vendors, exhibitors, and crafters, the beverage truck. It almost sounds like the 12 Days of Christmas, and a partridge in a pear tree. Go Jill Ryan. And the whole thing will come to an end at 1 p.m. with Howlin' Mercy, a local band performing here at the airport. And we hope you will come down, bring down your kids. There are day passes, weekend passes for the carnival. If you'd like to volunteer, there is a spot on our website where you can sign up to volunteer. If you are a vendor and you still want to sign up to do a booth or an exhibitor, there is a spot on our website where you can get applications to do so. If you would like to be in the parade, we have an application that you can sign up and do so. And just at the end of our community recreation meeting last Thursday, Chairperson Chad Novak informed me that he is making arrangements actually to have the parade broadcast again on GITV. That was always kind of a fun event that you could watch later on and see your friends and yourselves having a good time. Let's put it that way. And then my final comment for you tonight is, in my other life, I work in the healthcare industry, and on Thursday, May 11th, we're all expecting that the federal government will call an end to the public health emergency. This will change the way you may receive your health care, especially if you are on Medicare or Medicaid. Some of the rules that have been relaxed during the public health emergency will again come into force. So it'll be very important for you to look at your own health plan that you have to make sure what your coverage will allow. A lot of telehealth services will no longer be available to everybody. You will probably have to buy or purchase coverage for that. I only bring that up because a big part of what we've been doing for the last 3 years is telephone and telehealth visits, because they were allowed. But a lot of people don't have the technology and cannot invest in the technology to keep that going. So just be prepared. They're giving us a 90-day grace period, but there's not a whole lot in the media yet right now about the average person, what's going to happen. Your COVID tests may not be covered, etc. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. Brian, do you have anything else? Did I leave something out? That's it from the clerk's desk.
Thank you, Ute. I guess I'm next. Okay, from the treasurer's desk, any unpaid property tax, all unpaid 2022 property tax information has been sent to Wayne County. In early June, Wayne County will be sending out taxes due letters to property owners who failed to pay any of their 2022 property taxes. Interest is calculated per month, so it's always advisable to pay as soon as possible to avoid the interest charges. If your taxes were sent or will be sent to the county, you can contact the Wayne County Treasurer's Office at www.waynecounty.com/PTA or at 313-224-5990 for information on the amount of your outstanding balance. On the Airport Commerce Park Commission, a couple of things to report. The roof replacement on Hangar 1 is in progress, and work seems to be going along very well on that. Across Grow Road in front of Commerce Park, there's a new sign that some of you may see. The landscaping and some of the backlighting are in progress, and that should be completed pretty soon. And the next Airport Commerce Park Commission meeting is on May 15th. It's a Monday, a week from tonight, at 6 o'clock in the boardroom. And then from the DPS Commission, our next meeting is tomorrow night, May 9th at 7 p.m. Among the topics of discussion at that meeting will be the paving of Park Lane from where North Church to Horseville. And chip sealing will begin on various roads this week. A list of the roads that are being done in this installment, I think, are listed on our on the Township website. And did they go out on Code Red?
Yeah, a notice with a link to the roads.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And that's all I have from the two commissions. I do want to bring up, some of you may or may not be aware of this, but there is a state senator, and her district is, I guess, South Macomb Township, or parts of Oakland or Macomb. It's the 11th district. And she is trying to garner support to introduce a bill to change the Michigan Open Meetings Act such that physical participation in a single location would no longer be required. And that's for any elected body. So this township board, a little further digging, if four of us were here, or as tonight, 6 of us are here, Mr. Budny could join via Zoom for any reason whatsoever. Right now, military deployment is the only reason for that, exemption to be participate by Zoom. So you can, this senator's name is Veronica Kleinfeld. You can find this information under her name. And if you care to, if you're not in favor of, or not in favor of keeping the Open Meetings Act the way it is, I urge you all to contact our state senator, Darren Camilleri, in the 6th District, and let him know that you're opposed to any changes in the Open Meetings Act that would not, that would, it would, it's, I see no value to this particular, but I urge everybody to look into it and make their own determination on whether they think these are valuable or not. And that concludes my remarks for this evening. Joe.
Good evening. I sit on the Police Commission. We meet the 3rd Tuesday of each month in the boardroom, and everything we've been working on, actually, we voted on, so I'll have no formal report tonight.
Kyle,
Skipped Yager and Bloetscher, but I can go.
you can go.
Outside, saving the best for last.
Oh, fair enough. I sit on the Planning Commission. It meets on an as-needed basis on either the first or third Monday of the month. There's no current Planning Commission meeting scheduled between now and the next time this board is scheduled to meet. But I did hear a zoning question around Sacred Heart, and yes, if there were to be a rezoning, that would definitely be a long process, I believe. But still, it's good to hear from our constituents on that. And I'll just say generally, a lot of 6-0 votes tonight. Mr. Nadeau, you run a very efficient meeting. We got through a lot of that very quickly. But from my experience, a lot of those 6-0 votes came through a lot of deliberation, a lot of input from the public at commission meetings and in other forums. And I think that's part of why we were able to get to a really good consensus on a lot of these action items. So I just want to say I'm grateful for that and continue to encourage the public to participate and make their feelings known. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Kyle. And, well, we'll go to Jameson now and.
I thought we were saving
Pretend we're
best for
saving,
last.
pretend we're
So,
saving the best for last.
So I heard a couple things tonight that I thought were well, from residents, right? First was establish a cell tower ordinance, which I think is a great idea because then we can also establish a future cell tower policy. And if there is any policy as far as the master plan goes, as far as how interconnected we may want the municipality from a utility level. And then, which I love that idea. I know I brought it up before. Derek, Gibraltar Bay connector. When are we kicking this thing off?
The contract was signed, I believe, last week. Contractor had mentioned they should probably be starting in about 4 weeks.
Okay.
So 3-4 weeks from
Midsummer.
now, you should see activity.
Okay. For anybody that's not tracking, the Gibraltar Bay connector, which is an unofficial name that I think has just kind of become the primary term for it, is a project where we relocate the fence along East River, south of Grow Road, over at the edge of the east end of the airport, in order to allow public access to that access road that runs north-south along the east side perimeter of the airfield, and would enable pedestrians and bicyclists to get to the Gibraltar Bay Nature Unit via our trail system. So that's pretty exciting from our BPAC perspective. I did hear Christine Davis's comments, who lives on Canterbury, and just to echo what Kyle said, I mean, any kind of rezoning is a significant effort. I'm on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I don't think we could approve a we couldn't approve a commercial use of a residential district. So, and then to Mary Breslehan's comments, I think she's right. I mean, we're all concerned about the bridge, and I think we need to apply more pressure to Wayne County because they're just not. You know, they worked on it, they put in the effort to repair it and get it up to a certain level, and we've kind of been in the dark since. So maybe we need to re-engage with them about that. And finally, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee will be meeting on the 18th here in the boardroom, and the Zoning Board of Appeals will be meeting on the 23rd if there is zoning to review, or zoning appeals to review, 23rd of May. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. And now that we've gotten the best out of the way, Mr. Bloetscher.
Best for last. Well, I echo Kyle's thoughts about having Jim stay home more often and having David run the meetings. I think you're very efficient, doing very well. I have the privilege of sitting on Greenway's open space, and as many of you know, this last week was our spring Dump the Junk, Find a Treasure. I offer the following in that regard. We had a record 555 vehicles come into the complex. They dropped off 15 dumpsters worth of materials that were filled to the brim. Wood and concrete seemed to be the hottest commodity this time, as well as 99 tires. All of those are records for participation. I want to personally extend thanks to Cliff Alcantara and Hungry Howie's for their donation of pizza for lunch for the workers. Also like to thank the Reverend Sue Petod from Cass Community Services. At the end of the day, she brought down a box truck that we're able to put some of the materials in, some of the treasures that were gently used furniture. We had some mirrors, we had beds, we had about 15 folding chairs and some other furniture that was gently used and could be used by those in need. I also want to thank those from the people from the DPS that were involved in helping us: George Marks, Rob Ponder, John Kime, and Donna Deppa. They have always worked with us. They've worked very well, and without them, none of this would be possible. I also want to thank Deputy Clerk Brian Friel for placing us prominently on social media and leading to such a huge turnout. Also look at people on the committee that have spent hours and hours working on this, including Cliff St. Pierre, Ray Geist, Scott Rind, who's a citizen volunteer, Amanda Phillips, Roberta Urbani, her husband John Leon, Teresa Weeks, and her husband John Weeks. And I also most especially want to thank Bill Stevenson, a chair, who has worked so hard to put all of this together and make it very worthwhile. I think the proof is in the absence of junk and tires and concrete and all kinds of other debris in the open space areas. When you walk the trails, you really don't see much of anything in terms of litter or debris, and I think that is a large part due to the dump the junk that we have. I was asked numerous times on Saturday about household hazardous waste collection, and I am pleased to report that we have upcoming household hazardous waste collection with the Henry Ford Community College, June 17, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at 5101 Evergreen Road in Dearborn. Again, June 17, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Examples of household hazardous waste collection that is going to be available: household paint, stains, dyes, floor wax, floor care products, carpet cleaner, furniture polish, bathroom cleaners, stain removers, solvents, pharmaceutical waste, that is without controlled substances, nail polish, glue, fertilizer, lawn and garden chemicals, antifreeze, motor oil, gasoline, auto batteries, dry cell batteries, fluorescent bulbs, all types, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, mercury thermometers, thermostats, elementary mercury and electronics recycling, computers, CPUs, monitors, printers, scanners, keyboards, mice, cell phones, fax machines, copiers, and televisions. Last time they did this at the North Line branch of the college, people started lining up well before 8 o'clock, and they were there until after 1 o'clock. So if you're going to do this, get to Henry Ford early so that you can take care of all the hazardous waste materials that are not collected anywhere else. After that, there will be an August 26th drop at the Westland Shopping Center. And then in October, we have the Wayne County Community College at Northline that I just referred to. One of the great things that I have come to appreciate about sitting here is recognizing not only that we are a community of really, really good people, as exemplified by the names that I just read that were involved with one of a number of projects, but I also had the privilege of writing an article for the Island Grand that focused on all of those things that we can do here that are very, very low cost or even free. That was in the last paper. That prompted me to think about some of the great people that are here. I had the privilege again yesterday of going to the 90th birthday party for Pat Zavadil. That was at the St. James Episcopal Church. More than 150 people there sang her praises, many of them recounting her numerous accomplishments within the community, all of the things that she has done for so many people. And to see 150 people turn out for that Sunday event was truly incredible. And looking at the accomplishments that they were talking about with Pat really makes you appreciate some of the things that people contribute within this community. Lastly, I would indicate that today is the 78th anniversary of VE Day. So when you think about what the end of World War II in Europe meant to so many people, we saw some of the, and heard some of the speeches during the recent coronation, but what a difference England was from then until even 3-4 years later, still suffering from rationing and those kinds of things. You see a veteran, you don't have to necessarily thank them for VE Day, but all of them have given so much. Some gave all. There's so much service that goes on in this community by so many people. I just ask that when you see a veteran, you simply tell him or her, thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Carl. And with that being concluded,
Motion to adjourn.
oh, I'm sorry, Derek.
Sorry, Derek.
Real quick, a couple comments this
Is for
evening.
last now.
Good. I'm just reiterating some things that were actually already mentioned. The chip seal work that's going to be happening on Thursday and Friday of this week. That's happening on South Point, Grow, and East River. And the East River section is Manchester to Grow. This is primarily preventative maintenance work. This prolongs the life of these surfaces. So this is not intended to be a new surface. This is more or less to preserve what's already there. Just wanted to make sure the residents are clear about that. The areas in which they're working, they're going to be closing those areas to one lane of traffic. There will be flagmen in those areas helping to direct traffic while the work is ongoing. Residents want to keep their speeds below 25 miles an hour when they're driving these sections, especially after it's been applied. Speed is the biggest thing that will cause this material to come up on your vehicle. So just to let you know, keep the speed down, just drive cautiously, watch out for construction workers. Usually within a day, the material has a tendency to lay down and you won't have it coming up as much as especially right after application. So those additional roads that were approved at tonight's meeting, we're going to try to add those on while they're here. And the reason for that is because this contractor is actually the only bidder we had, goes up north after the beginning part of the summertime, and then they don't come back to this area but maybe once or twice through the summertime, because this is a common surface treatment measure that a lot of northern communities participate in. So once they're out of town, they don't normally come back for a while. So we wanted to try to get this added, these additional pieces of work added now while they're here, in the hopes that we can get that done as well this week. If not, they'll be back in July. But thanks for your support this evening that allows that possibility. One other thing about the DPS meeting, or the DPS department, the meeting tomorrow, we're going to be going over the asset management plan that's been formulated over the past 3 or 4 years. That was a massive project which involved inventorying all of our sanitary assets, both vertical and horizontal, so the underground pipes, the wastewater treatment plant, and what they're going to be rolling out is basically a report tomorrow night which shows all of the assets, criticality, the importance to the overall operation of the entire system, and then a capital improvement schedule that spans 20 years with a prioritization of replacements and also costing for all that. So it'll be a really good thing for, I think, residents, elected officials, appointed officials to watch, because I think it's a very in-depth, detailed look at one set of assets within the community, which gives us a roadmap into the future for what we need to do as far as maintaining that asset or those set of assets. And then one last other item in reference to that comment that was made regarding planning in land use. As Trustee Beausset had mentioned earlier, we do have a planning commission. There is a process to consider development proposals within the community and most communities that have zoning regulations. And rezoning is also a process. So we have a process for just construction and project approvals, but we also have a process for rezoning. Both of those situations do have public input components associated with them, in which the contractor or the owner of the property has to justify their project. And as Trustee Yager had mentioned, rezoning is a very complex process where that owner has to justify why they need something and how that would fit into the neighboring uses and how it wouldn't be disruptive. And the planning commission that considers that, they want to hear from the residents to see what that impact would be. So that would be something that would go out to the public and would be encouraged to have public participation in that conversation. All of these happen after the township receives a proposal. We have not received a proposal for that property. We're not aware of what their intents are. I know they have it up for sale, but we don't really know until they give us something from somebody that wants to do something. I think that there's a bit of a misnomer out there because there is commercial real estate on that sign. I don't know that it necessarily means that they want to use that for commercial purposes. So I think that's where that impression maybe is coming from. And I just wanted to clarify a little bit of that. So with that concludes my report. Thank you.
Now, Jameson,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.